Chapter 11, El Paso, Texas. Samuel stopped telling his story to young Kushi and just sat there in deep thought. Dan Daddy. Dan Daddy. Samuel heard his small voice calling out his name. Kushi looked up at him. "We are you crying, Dan Daddy?" Samuel got up and started looking for some papers. "Here it is." As he returned and sat down, Prophetess Akila Malek wrote these papers centuries ago, and she said it best: "They were for the soul of humanity, and planet Earth is real and unrelenting. The hardest to win when the souls for whom you fight are loyal allies of the enemy you fight. You are, in effect, fighting our on two fronts. Worst of all, trying to save someone who doesn't know they are in danger, refuses to believe it when you tell them, and refuses to accept it even after they've seen the proof. That is the mindset of most of those we've encountered for some time now since returning to Louisiana, along with the varied isms. Sexism, men thinking they are superior to men. Racism, whites and other people of color thinking they are superior to black people or others of different shades than themselves. Classism, on a group thinking they are superior to another because of what they possess or who they think they are, and elitism, those who think they are the apex and everyone else is the base. The saddest and most frustrating of all is dealing with the truth, you know, blatant and irrefutable, that none of this is anything more than an illusion created by the very enemy you fight. And you are fighting to pull people out of a burning house while they insist the enemy who fans the flames will save them. On a definition of hell is, the truth saying to late. Turning a few pages, Samuel said, "Here is another on a like behavior. It would be neat if me people were as quick to notice the truth as they are of birthday wishes or photos of cute babies. When the Torah says, me people perish for lack of knowledge, it is true. But they also perish because they chose to ignore knowledge when it is given. As Moses said, the people ate, drank, and rose up to play. Because it was easier than fighting the truth, the Richard King, scholar, once warned that the perpetual war against black people was never ending and would continue until we create systems for fighting back. For decades, since the end of the Civil War, polity and the prison system have been used to control the existence and freedom of the former black slaves and their descendants. The polity were originally formed, evolving out of the pose to track down runaway slaves and later to protect whites. Terrified of retaliation following the emancipation, they were at first paid bodyguards. Then they evolved into community patrols and into the municipal guardians they are today. It was never intended that black men should be among them since they were formed to regulate and control that very group. Statistics don't lie. As the Richard King eloquently pointed out, this war is about revenge, retaliation, and retained control of community, all but a few moral whites and sub-whites believe should have total equality and freedom. We, who were the young resistors of the civil rights era, tried to warn the elders of the day that unless and until we, like our Native American brothers and sisters, demanded our own free and independent nation within a nation, with all the rights and benefits we were thereto entitled, we would never know true freedom. As he said in a speech he once gave to political candidates, freedom ain't free. They let us go, but kept our freedom hostage. The aim is to curtail and reduce our population by reducing and controlling the black male seen as the greatest threat to white supremacy power and key to reproduction. The statistics speak for themselves. Recognizing this is one thing. Changing it is another. Wiping the tears from his eyes, Samuel said, "Sorry, son, just thinking about our people who have died from diseases that have plagued the land, and he was thinking about them." "Anyway, son, that's enough for today," tirade. Trying to change the subject, Kushi asked, "How do you talk to animals, Daddy?" Samuel, seeing the concern on Kush's face, smiled, "That's a hard one to explain. It's more telepathically, but not really. I have to think about how to explain that one and get back to you on that one. When you have been doing something so long, it's just hard to explain it." Samuel looked at Kush. "Son, it's getting late. Come on back tomorrow. Gone on before it gets any darker." The truth was Samuel was still emotionally upset and didn't want to continue his story, but Kush was not sleepy and started asking Samuel more questions about his story. "Daddy, whatever happened to Uday when he went to Lake Providence?" Samuel smiled and pointed at Cliff and Ron, sleeping on a couch across from them. "Those are his descendants rigged there. Surrounding them were dishes and towels from the meals that Big Ma had bought them throughout the day as he told Kush his story. Clean up this mess, take the dishes to the sink, and go on home. Tell your mother to send you over here after you have done your chores tomorrow." Kush was hesitant, honestly, Daddy, after that story about those demons, I'm afraid to sleep tonight. Samuel stood up and stretched. "Do you know the Lord's Prayer?" Kush quickly said, "Yes, Daddy." Samuel looked at Kush. "Ok then, say that, and you will sleep just neatly." Samuel walked toward the kitchen and abruptly stopped. "Listen, son, we are in a team and I give her people say you have to say 50 Hail Marys or do this or do that for the Lord to hear you. I say just become a friend to your Creator and let Him guide you. You say, everyone's friendship is different. Become His friend, you respect your friends. Here on earth. Respect Him as if He is your friend. You know He doesn't like this or that, don't do this or that and learn His way like any other friend, and He'll guide you on the right path. I have a friend who cannot stand cigar smoke, so I do not smoke around him. That is respect, that's a friend." Kush still didn't want to go home and had heard many people say, "Don't ask that man about no poetry, is God, but he'll wear you out," so he said, "Daddy, I heard you write poetry too." Samuel was determined to send Kush on his way, but he knew he was still bothered about the story of Incubus and Succubus, so Samuel turned around and took a seat in his chair. "It runs in the family. Ok, I'll tell you a few, and then you'll have to go. You wrote this on thinking about how it used to be in the olden days." Clearing his throat, he said, "Perfect world. Grandfather smoking like a train as he grasps for air to breathe. Mother is cursing. Father ducking from the things thrown in the air. Sons and daughters are growing up so fast, saying, life isn't fair. Grandmother fussing because the nutrients are missing. No food in the house, nothing is in the kitchen, everyone screaming, this living is unfair. This country is singing like birds, with words of foolishness and pride. Foolishness and pride that we despise. Kitty rushing like ants on a hill as she prepares for war. Drugs dancing as it captures their prisoners, returning them to jail. Souls praying, for they know it is they who are sending us to hell. But who cares? Jobs doing as they try to reach the unreachable. Money crying out for its cousins, greed and pride that can be seen even in your ears. Husband sinking because he is unable to pay his rent. Preacher crying, for they have no more stories to tell. Grass waving like little children, as te white patiente to specto te sun for growth, or even te mon to sleep. Dog barking like a selfish woman. O can't have teir why. Fleas beting as te work teir nine to vive, to survive, altis give, wile sitting on teir prey. Diseases lurking in the darkness, is altis making yo blue. It's happening because of yo. As death waiting patiently for the moment to grab you, taking you to its home, your final resting place. Grown men yelling like little girls, as we all try to live in this perfect world. Samuel sighed. I like this on it all, signs of the times. I asked so many questions, not on a cold be answered. I had to learn them on my own. We didn't anyone know the answer to my questions. Were they so hard? Had to realize some of them alone on my own. Searched and searched. Still, no one cold answer these questions except him. Who knows everything. Goodness and mercy is his name. Asked about hunger, pain, and suffering. Asked about mankind and prejudice. Envy and hatred. Explain. How we all go through all these things to die. While other things get in the way. Generations getting worse than the one before. Those that were not strong, but humble. Will make it pass the test of time. Telling me it would soon be over. It would no longer exist. Telling me it was going to get worse. Before it gets better. Telling me it was all written in the signs of the times. Samuel finally sent Kushi home, but brigid and early, Samuel saw Kushi outside staring at Gemini as if he were trying to speak to him. Kushi stood there for 10 minutes before he continued on to Samuel's house. As they knocked on the door, Samuel said, "Come on in, Kushi." Kushi walked into the house. Samuel curiously asked, "Well, I say you were trying to talk to old Gemini. Did you get a new hair?" Kushi said out of frustration, "No." Samuel smiled, "Just keep trying, on a day, we'll go out there and try it together." They talked for a while, and Big Ma made them a big breakfast as usual, and then the two of them headed to his study. Samuel took a sip of coffee. Sabaoth had to deal with us first, before he went on to everyone else. There was a reason for that, but first I must say. Humans started the separation of color, religion, and damn near everything else because of one word, jealousy. You don't hate someone because they are smarter than you. Do you? Kushi said, "No." Samuel asked, "How about taller than you?" Kushi gave a funny look, "No." I look at hatred, the same way, and it's the silliest thing man ever did. But Sabaoth made that clear. But we'll get to that in a bit. Taking another sip of coffee, "Well, no, wanyenyekevu meeting in Subus and Sutrubus is where we left off, but let's fast forward a bit. He was in Tallulah for 3 months and learned a lot about his family and some important things that would prepare him emotionally for his trip to Arizona." Samuel paused for a second. "Well, after he left Tallulah, he traveled alone for 4 more months or so. Many days were delightful and encouraging, some very hard and rigorous, but wanyenyekevu was transforming into the man that Sabaoth wanted him to be. Traveling before Bidai, resting at Nig to avoid heavily populated areas and men altogether, for the time being, because Mlezi told him it was not the time. But he was learning a deeper understanding of each component of man's totality. He saw the difference between the traditions of man and spirituality. He got closer to 3 metro areas along the way that would last from 3 to 6 months, where each major stop intensified the training. On a city was just a few miles north of the metro, Shreveport, Louisiana. 10. He headed southwest near Metro Dallas. 10. He headed to the abandoned cities of Ardmore and onto Abilene, Texas. Once in Abilene, Wanyenyekevu finds himself in a thick wooded forest. After training, as he headed west, he noted the animals walking alongside him as if they knew him. The scenery started changing as he watched two squirrels slowly chase each other. With his attention focused on the squirrels, he suddenly turns and sees his in the midst of the desert, saying a rattlesnake slither rigged by him. Confused about what just happened, he stopped and said to himself, "What is this? Divu?" Mlezi appeared before him. Wanyenyekevu said, "I'm confused. I don't know the differences between reality and my dreams. I was just in a wooded area, and now I'm suddenly in the desert. But I didn't see what was in front of me, but rather a dream I had many months ago." Mlezi said to him in a calm voice, "Turn around. You'll say you have walked at least a mile in the desert. Here the environment you are used to has abruptly ended, and it will be a while before you return to it. You were indeed somewhere else, from when you left our last location, until now. I hoped you could find that plate, and know the differences between the two. I need you to concentrate and learn this for a reason. Sabaoth has been dealing with you with this, since you left home. Introducing it to you in dreams, that now have come to pass, and it's growing stronger for a reason. I will explain later as you learn that difference. Now continue to travel west. I will return with a blessing from Sabaoth when you have achieved this final lesson." Wanyenyekevu said, "I don't understand it at all." Mlezi said, "You will." And Wanyenyekevu rubbed his eyes, scratched his head, then replied with determination, "It is so." Unfamiliar with this environment, he didn't know what to eat or where to find water. He ran across a plant and what appeared to be some kind of fruit on it. He took a bite of it and found himself getting sick. 10. He woke up and still had the fruit in his hand, but it hadn't been bitten, so he immediately threw it away. The confusion would come and go, and he thought he was going crazy for a moment. He dropped to his knees as he prayed, "Sabaoth, I don't know what I'm doing. Please guide me." As he was praying, Sabaoth showed him a cactus, and the things he read as a child manifested. Water from cactus and snakes. I shall eat. These bizarre dreams continued to happen to him until he began to get used to them, but his diet remained the same for 30 days until he found himself in Socorro, Texas, outside El Paso. Mlezi appeared before him, saying, "Your trials are finished, and you have accomplished all that Sabaoth has required of you." Anointing Wanyenyekevu's forehead, Mlezi continued, "Release your spirit, open your mind, and your flesh shall follow. Every spirit has a gift, but the flesh and the mind prevent its manifestation. Each gift is unique for everyone, for gifts are freely given to all flesh. That's about creators. Your Creator chose you because of your heart and humbleness. There will only be 3 people in this lifetime who shall receive this gift. It shall soon come to you like a breathing, and you must embrace it. For it is a special gift from Sabaoth. You are the first of humanity ever to receive such a gift, and you shall teach every man how to embrace his gift. With this special gift, you shall pass it on to your descendant when the time comes. Your gift as a man is a gift to set the heart for what it is, sincere or not. But that gift you received from Sabaoth shall be as you have read in the books of Kings during your holy journey, so shall you bless your descendant with a double portion of the blessing as Elijah did. Close your ears and tell me what you say." Wanyenyekevu quickly replied, darkness. Before he could finish the word, he sighed, white. I me alone in the desert, and you are not here. Mlezi sighed, before you opened your eyes, I will not be here because your journey from here is your own now, and you will only see me again when Sabaoth needs you to see me. Your special gift from Sabaoth is to see 10 minutes into the future, but you need to accept it and control it. Everyone doesn't need to know your gift, which you will learn. Your true journey starts now. Wanyenyekevu opened his eyes, and Mlezi was gone. The evening soon faded as he sat there gazing into the sky. Noted a hurry just within range for a quick dinner as the sun set. He reached for his bow, shot the hare, prepared a small fire, and cleaned it as he waited for the hare to get to that perfect brown tone. He seasoned it with some of the last fresh herbs and spices he retrieved from his mother. He just stood there looking into the fire, grabbing a pen and pad, and wrote, Black Rat. Contemplating. Yes, heavy thoughts run through God this weary mind. Sad thoughts, happy thoughts, but how do I express myself to you? Ungrateful is a word like to use. It seems hard to say, but it's the truth that will lead you to the straight and narrow way. Disrespectfulness seems to be second nature for you. Why do it try so hard to be so polite in my sayings? Cause with humility and kindness you get the best results. Nothing will happen without the two. If people don't listen to you, it will be your fault. What kind of nonsense is that? I speak, and you take what you want. All I ask is, do your own research. I do not lie, it's the best of my knowledge. Here I go, fate to fate. Bite why I dedicated this to the Black Rat. Firstly, to the males who make up 70% of those who are in jail. Be strong. For the sisters who have forgotten about true love. Know when you are wrong. And I say this in every aspect of life. If you need an example, look at Jesus Christ. He paid the price. The supreme sacrifice. The abusive nature that we are now in has created so much confusion between us. Within us. Creating something that the Black Rat has never seen before. Killing for land that's not ours. Killing each other for the colors we wear. Killing one another because of a simple star. Brothers rejecting the natural course of a man. Even sisters are doing the same. Retrieving within themselves that which is unnatural and uncommon. What a silly and lame game that we play. Talking to the Black Rat. To those who don't understand, let me offer you a hand. Homosexuality is what I refer to. At first, when I saw it, it was something I feared to say. I thought it could rub off on me. Ignorant to the sickness, but now it's clear. No more do I reject my brothers and sisters because of their sexuality. Many have been used, abused, and now confused. Unable to deal with these problems, they have left their true origin. Their roles in life. But as long as they need me, I will always be there for them to say. Cause they are my people, the Black Rat. There are some amongst you, I've heard you say. He is from the south, but I'm from the north. She is from the West Indies, but I'm from Europe, and that saddens me. Are you trying to say I'm dumb, and you're smart? Hell, where is your damn heart? Where are your eyes? We're still black. Teach me what you know, and I'll teach you what I know. Let's stop being each other's voice. Someone who holds the truth, but never tells that truth is of no use. How kan yo be useful to anyone but yo? Knowledge that isn't shared, that makes me blue. Suicide wasn't our way of dealing with our problems. We were always able to handle them, even solve them. Once proud people to be called the black rat. No to money, it's a disgrace. Jumping off bridges. Putting guns to our heads. Our precious gift of life flows through the streets until we are dead. Rats lick this blood as if it's wine. This must be a part of the end times. From Babylon to Untle Toms. Field niggers to house niggers. From jail to prison. Is our extent a sin? To the sisters, I won't say much because I believe a lot of what's wrong with you is us. Slave mentality still runs rampant in our hearts and minds. Jealousy and envy is helping to destroy our kind, our means. Can you be happy with anyone? They live in a neat house. Or drive a fine car. What a shame, we're still playing the killing game. A people that has been through so much hell. We should be the neatest people on this planet. Killing and hurting is all we know. So it seems to be the only thing we do log and criticize, to say we have a dream. Don't have a respect for our mothers. The black rat seems to be a disgrace to the human rat. Come out of the person you've been molded to be. Forget what's in your minds about each other. Learn to be lovers of yourself. Then you can be lovers to others. When that happens, you will no longer be called a rat that doesn't exist. For where is the land of black? Until you realize that you will forever be an outcast. The lowest form of life. You say others know their point of origin. Koreans, Japanese, Europeans, Italians. All recognize their rate, their plate. But your title will be plain and simple. The black rat. When Nyenyekevu was staring at the fire, waiting for his meal to finish, when he smelled something strong, looking up, he saw his meal burning. After a few minutes of cleaning off the burnt sections, he slowly ate his meal and laid down for the night. He had a vision of a few men just a few yards away from him as he was lying down. He focused on the men and their conversation. Atelin on one side to another, no disrespect, but your father would have me head if we don't return soon. Said Margier, a tall and skinny young man about 18 years old whose job was to look after Atelin, the young son of a tyrant named Oedipus. They stood looking at Nyenyekevu, writing in his notepad from a distance with 3 of his bodyguards, Adalbert, Alwyn, and Corin. I'll have a Corin take your head now, if you don't be quiet. Said Atelin. I am hungry now, and this cat has dinner already ready, we're going to kill him and take his fucking food. Atelin was 18 years old, tall, hard-fatted, and a very spoiled young man. They all had no choice but to agree. Follow me, lad, then. Adalbert said. When Nyenyekevu says and hears Tesefive and Akatas men gather behind a large bush in the desert. After 10 minutes, hears, evening, my friend, we mean no harm. We're heading toward El Paso, and thought that you might be on your way as well, and maybe you might need some company. Adalbert said. When Nyenyekevu smiled because he knew Tese were the same men he saw in his vision. When Nyenyekevu was always a serious young man and hardly joked or played around at all, you would have had to have known him for quite some time for him to make a joke around you. They didn't know that his weapon of choice was the uhite kane passed down from his ancestors, which yielded the samurai sword instead it when you turn it a particular way, made from elephant tusk, his great-grandfather had killed years ago. They didn't know that his bow was another weapon he loved for distances, which his grandfather made for his father, and his father gave it to him for his journey. But his love for carving wood and fashioning different metals made him an expert in throwing stars and knives. What they didn't know was about to be the last thing they knew. For wanyenyekevu said to the men, "How is it that so many come for on a man? Is this the way of the Anakatas? No, I have not known of this way since hunting for boar. As a child, we did go in groups to hunt the great beast, for they are dangerous animals when you come fate to fate. So is this what you say when you say me? A great animal, and you are children looking for a great adventure." Corin was Atelin's chief bodyguard, 22-year-old, 6 foot 2 inches, weighing 260 pounds, with muscles bulging out of his clothing. He snarled, popping his neck and shaking his shoulders. "Leave this little man to me, and let me show him what I do to boars." Pausing to finish popping his neck, he sighed, "Let's play, little man." Wanyenyekevu noted that Corin came rushing in, so he sidestepped to his rig and mule kicked him to the stomach, then he spun around and kneed him in the head, followed by a roundhouse kick. "Is that the best you can do?" Wanyenyekevu shouted, pointing at Corin, who was knocked out cold. Saying this, the other 4 men yelled as they rushed toward Wanyenyekevu. He kicked Adalbert in the throat as he gasped for air. He took out his cane and quickly struck him in the temple, instantly killing him. As he swung around, he crossed the other bodyguard, Alwyn, in the groin. As Alwyn was leaning forward, he mule kicked Margier. With a swift move, he turned the handle of his cane, revealing the samurai's blade, taking out Alwyn by piercing his heart as he pivoted just enough to decapitate Margier as he was leaning forward. Atelin, the tyrant's son, fearing for his life, ran into the darkness. Listening to his footsteps as he ran, Wanyenyekevu threw a star that landed deep in the back of his skull, killing him. Anger comes over him as he hears the moans of Corin. He quickly drives his samurai into his heart, turning it on 180 degrees. He took his samurai and slashed it in the air, forcing the blood from the blade. With a swift move, he whips it with a cloth as it collapses back into the cane. As he heard the locking mechanism click, he looked for a minute at the dead man. The entire fig had already played out in his mind, but he had to play his part. Wanyenyekevu knew every move they would make before they made them. Amazed at saying things before they happened, he learned how to let different scenarios play out in his head, as he was not much for playing games. But Wanyenyekevu always hated violence and was saddened, but he saw what they would do to him and realized it was him or them. But the sight of blood, which he considers the soul's Asante, still saddened him as he stood there, he threw up his entire meal. He quickly packs up his belongings and heads toward Metro El Paso, Texas. Seeing the images of the men's faces and the blood on his clothing, he dropped to his knees in disgrace and shouted, "Sabaoth, please forgive me for I have shed blood, and I have killed, not one, but 5 more of your treasons in one night." It seemed like a horse as Wanyenyekevu tried out to Sabaoth before he finally fell asleep. As he closes his eyes and sees darkness, he sees a small light above his head. The light gets larger and more prominent, then suddenly, he sees his grandmother. "It's a boy," she shouts for joy. His family surrounded him, for it is his birth that he is witnessing. Wanyenyekevu 10 says his entire life, it was as if he relived a very second until the exact time he fell asleep. The darkness covered him again, and then he heard a great voice. Before you were in the womb, I called thee. Waking up to that great voice, Wanyenyekevu arose from his sleep and wiped the tears from his eyes. It is so. The sun rose, Wanyenyekevu smiled, for joy had covered him, but the pain still overshadowed him. 3 hours had passed filled with the mixed emotions as he arrived on a mile south of the opening into El Paso Metro. The first metro he had ever seen in his life, up close at last. There were only 10 metro and hundreds if not thousands of micros that he knew of, and only 3 metros were down south: Dallas, Houston, and Atlanta. El Paso was no longer considered the south, but its metro was a gigantic bubble about 24 miles high and a perimeter of 52 miles wide. He had heard about metro and micros from others in his village, books in the library, but he had never seen them for himself. He stood there in awe for 5 minutes. The bubble, as it is called back home, stood there like a transparent, crystallized liquid that seemed to fall like a waterfall but was forced to stay in place with a never-ending trickle of lava like a fluid. He stood there looking through the bubble afar to see the ski, large buildings, and thousands of ski craft racing through the bubble. He was in awe of the floating building that stood amid the atmosphere.